And away we go. We have made it to opening week. We finally have gotten over the hump, and we have actual football games that will count just less than 4 days, 3.5 or so, or based on maybe you're in Hawaii, so three days and 3/4 from NFL games that actually matter. Not saying that preseason games don't matter for certain reasons, but I just want some real football, and it all kicks off on September 4th on Thursday with the Eagles defending it all against the Cowboys. The NBC season opening game should be awesome. The first ever Friday night season opening game in NFL history with the Chiefs and the Chargers. The Chargers, one of my Super Bowl futures picks at 20 or so to 1. Is Mahomes going to have a down year? Maybe something he's going to be as good as he's ever been. Is Travis Kelce going to have a down year because now he's got to worry about setting up his wedding plans with Taylor Swift? Oh yeah, did anybody hear about that? Taylor Swift, I think I know her. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce have got engaged, and the world has now gone to heck. No, very happy for both of them. I actually like Taylor Swift. I know there's a lot of NFL fans that are like super against her. I think she's ruining the sport. She's not doing anything bad about football. And how can you not be happy for them? They seem to be truly in love. Travis Kelce just became a billionaire now. We'll see if he signs a prenup. But Kelce and I'm sure Taylor Swift will be there in that same Sao Paulo, Brazil game coming up on Friday, 5 days from now. Then we've got a full slate of week one. We're going to talk about some of that later in the show. We've got a big show for you as always coming up in a little bit. Not often you have a first ballot Hall of Famer for anything on. How about a first ballot FSWA Hall of Famer for fantasy? It's my man, Greg Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. He's a legend. He also does a lot of podcasts with the sports affiliation crew on YouTube. Looking forward to talking with him. But let's find out that Greg, who doesn't live in Michigan anymore, but used to, is a lifelong Lions fan. So even before I even met the guy, I loved him. So we're going to talk with Greg about a bunch of different stuff as the fantasy season coming to full focus. But a couple things off the jump here. I'm in New York as we speak right now. I know, how can you be in New York when you're doing this? Well, I guess I can do the show from New York. I am seeing Oasis as this show airs. And just want to let everyone know we're always fully transparent here on the Monday Night Edge and our great partners at Bull Rush. We're recording this on Friday, so obviously some things might have shifted since then. I don't think we're going to have any earth-shattering news like the Micah Parsons trade, which we'll get into in a minute here. But we're recording this on Friday, getting set for this season. I'm going to be at Oasis tonight. I know a lot of people watching this stream are big Oasis fans, so you'll be there in spirit. Also going to check out the U.S. Open, one of the few sporting events that I've not had a chance to either go to or cover as a longtime member of the media, so very excited about that. But that's the deal with the show tonight. And then obviously this show is normally always live leading up to the Monday Night Football game, which will start, going next week, an actual real Monday Night Football game, not a preseason one. So great to have everyone here. Great stuff last week. Really appreciated all the interaction. The show is all about you that are watching, to give you great information on what games to take, what parlays to make, props, all that different stuff, which we're going to do all season long here. Before I get into some news and notes, and then we'll get with Greg Kellogg in a minute, I just want to let everyone know again about the Survivor contest that Bull Rush is doing. It's phenomenal. It's one of the reasons that I decided to partner with them, because it's such a forward-thinking idea, and that's what I'm all about these days. We have a lot of stale things that are happening in sports and sports media and sports gambling, and it's all about fresh things for me, and this is about as fresh as it gets. For people that aren't familiar with the Survivor Pool, the way that usual Survivor Pools work is you pick a team once a week. You can only use that team once throughout the season. And then whoever's left standing, surviving in the end, wins the Survivor Pool. Maybe there's rules in that certain Survivor Pool league that if there's 6 people that are still there at the end of the regular season, they all split the pool. There might be a tiebreak, whatever. Bull Rush is taking that and turning it on its head and doing something that is so cool that I'm going to be playing along. Like, I'm going to be in this pool myself, along with all of you that join in. And there's a great deal for it as well. So the way they're doing it is every week you get $100,000 in virtual money. And you can do whatever you want with that. Like, the minimum is 2 bet slips. So you can take 2 plays. Let's say you like the Packers and the Lions, and whatever. I mean, this week 1 they're playing each other. But for example, like, let's say the Packers are playing Miami and the Lions are playing the Vikings. As long as you make 2 slips of bets, that's all you need. You can also make 150 slips of bets, and you can use whatever you want as far as that $100,000 in virtual money goes. So if you that week are the top 80% of all the people in the pool, you advance. And if you get to week 10 through 19, you start getting prizes, cash prizes. First place, $500. Second place, $350. Third place, $150. And anybody that wins a week gets to week 20, instantly $200. The entry fee is $100. I'm going to give you a deal and get half off in a minute here. You instantly get $200, but that's when the real prizes happen. If you finish in first place, you get $50,000. If you get second, 20 grand. Third, 10 grand. Fourth, 5 grand. Fifth, $2,500. This is cash. And then 6th through 10th, $1,000. To mention anyone else that qualifies for week 20 is going to get $200. So 11th place, on is getting $200. Plus, they might have won a week earlier in the season, obviously, so they're going to get the money for that. So all you got to do is go to bullrush.com. If you put in the code EDGE, not only do you get $50 back, so you get $50 off the $100 entry fee, you also get a $5 bonus. So you're basically getting $55 to, instead of spending $100, and you're in, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about this on the show throughout the year. I'll tell you what the picks that I'm making are. It's going to be awesome. So check that out at bullrush.com. We do have some stuff that we'll play for you throughout the show that we'll explain a little more as well. But I think I did a great job explaining it, obviously. As my dad says, I'm a legend in my own mind. But listen, there are very few times in the NFL where right before the season starts, you have an earth-shattering situation. Well, we just had one. And it's so funny because they're not a threat to me as a Lions fan anymore. Like the Lions and Cowboys are supposed to be the teams of the 90s. Did happen. Obviously, I was at the Lions' only playoff window a couple years ago in January of 1992 when they beat the crap out of the Cowboys with Barry Sanders and the great Eric Kramer. That was when the Lions were supposed to lift off and be the Super Bowl team that has never even been to a Super Bowl yet. Cowboys won 3 titles. Since then, it's been 96 since the Cowboys been to a title game. Since then, the Cowboys might be the most valuable NFL franchise, but they're one of the most embarrassing. And people will say, oh, it's Jerry Jones' fault. Some will say, no, I just feel like they've, had some bad decisions made here and there. Fans said the same thing about the Fords. When William Clay Ford, who wanted to win as much as he could have, just couldn't do it. He passed away, sadly. He went to Martha. Martha let, the daughter, Sheila Ford Hamp, take over. Things have changed. I don't think that things are going to change in the Cowboys until Jerry Jones gives up the team, even though it's obviously made a ton of money for himself and the franchise is worth a lot of money. They made terrible decisions, extending Dak Prescott, getting rid of certain players. Some of their draft choices in recent years have been silly. They've obviously had some good teams, but teams that can never finish. And now, after Dallas is already reeling from losing a in his 20s future Hall of Famer Luka Doncic to the Lakers in the prime of his career, now they've got to deal with arguably, I'm not saying he is for sure, but arguably the best defensive player in the NFL right now in linebacker Micah Parsons, who gets traded to the Green Bay Packers, which I know, as I mentioned, Greg Kellogg, a big Lions fan, so am I. Not happy if I'm a Lions fan that he's getting traded division. But how about the Cowboys fans? This guy's going to get paid $188 million for 4 years. It came out of nowhere on Thursday, where I remember I was getting ready to call my high school football game of the week, our season open this week, and I'm out there at our remote with some clients, and we're getting ready for the game, and an alert comes on my phone. Cowboys are seriously starting to listen to teams about a Micah Parsons trade, which for months was being said was not going to happen. No way Jerry Jones is going to trade him. No way the Cowboys would even consider that. And this whole time, it looks like from what Jerry Jones has said, they were talking to teams, and it was a serious thing. But obviously, they kept it under wraps, so maybe that's one good thing the Cowboys did. And then less than an hour later, I think it was Adam Schefter, so I'll give him credit, he broke this, that the Cowboys had traded Micah Parsons to the Packers. And just shocking, right before the season, I don't care what the Packers gave. I mean, obviously there's a player involved in some draft picks. I don't care if they gave, the rights to Patrick Mahomes somehow. It still is insane to me that the Cowboys would do this. And it just shows you that this franchise, and I don't want to say I feel bad for Cowboys fans because for a long time they were very arrogant. I have some friends that are Cowboys fans, and I have no problem with them. It's not like some of my Michigan State friends or people like that or Packers fans, no offense. I know a lot of Packers fans. They're good people. But if you're a Cowboys fan, it'd be like when Barry Sanders retired from the Lions. What if the Lions had traded Barry Sanders? I would be livid. And to see what Jerry Jones has been saying this whole time, that there's no way this is going to happen. We're going to do whatever we can to sign this guy. It looks like he never really wanted to, didn't want to pay the money. I think it's insane. I think the Cowboys are going to be awful this year. I know there were some people that thought they were going to be a playoff team and maybe make a move, to try to get back to an NFC title game. They might miss the playoffs, not just because they're losing Parsons, just because this team is run so poorly. And it has been for a long time. Now, listen, they had 3 rings in the 90s, so give them credit. But since then, they've been like the Toronto Maple Leafs until the last couple of years. Couldn't win a playoff series, couldn't win a playoff game. That's the Dallas Cowboys. So the Micah Parsons trade, earth-shattering stuff, crazy that it happened. If you're a Green Bay Packers fan who now their futures odds to win the Super Bowl, to win the NFC North, all have gone down. Lions are still the slight favorite at plus 175 to win the NFC North, but the Packers are right there at plus 220. Their win totals got more juice on the over. They were going to be good anyway. Now they've got Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons, and they've got this great defensive line. It's going to be very tough if you're playing the Green Bay Packers this year to score points. The pass rush is going to be sick. So that was huge news. Another big story, a guy that I love as a player, but obviously a bad situation legally for him, is Chiefs receiver Rashee Rice, one of Patrick Mahomes' favorite targets, and a guy that I've won a ton of money with same-game parlays on for receiving yards and touchdowns and catches, suspended for the first 6 weeks of the NFL season for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. This was announced on Wednesday. He'll be able to play again on October 13th, but he misses the first 6 games. Last month, the 25-year-old Rice was sentenced to 5 years probation and 30 days of jail time following just a very tragic multi-car crash on Dallas's North Central Expressway from last year. He had pleaded guilty to third-degree felony charges, which was collision involving serious bodily harm and racing on a highway causing bodily harm. Because according to Dallas police, he was in his Lamborghini going more than 119 miles per hour before losing control and hitting the center median wall, which triggered that huge chain reaction collision involving 6 other vehicles. He took full responsibility. Everyone deserves second chances, but just what are you doing? I live here in Detroit. And for those that are familiar with the Metro Detroit area, we have a highway here called the Lodge. It's actually one of the first highways in the country. And for whatever reason, people are absolute jackasses on it. And there's not a lot of police activity. Like in certain areas, wherever you live, there might be a lot of cops around to make sure speed traps per se, to make sure people aren't speeding. And, there's a lot of police in certain areas to make sure that doesn't become a problem. That's not the way the Lodge is. And there are several nights where I'm headed down to a Tigers game or headed back to the casino or a club or whatever it is, because I live about 25 minutes outside of downtown Detroit, that there'll be like 10 crotch rockets in a row that will weave through traffic going $140. They'll be like Dodge Chargers. There's a lot of racing, illegal racing, obviously, on the Lodge. They'll be going 120 miles an hour like Rashee Rice was. I just think it's so stupid. And I know that Rashee Rice is a young kid. He's got money. He's in the NFL. He's becoming kind of a star as a receiver. And you make bad decisions. Think about I'm forgetting his name now. Like the former Raider that killed some people in his car going too fast. But I'll tell you, it's really frustrating to see this kind of stuff, and it really is going to hurt the Chiefs. So Rashee Rice out for 6 games. We'll see how that affects Patty Mahomes, Kelsey, and the boys on offense for the first 6 weeks of the season. How about Shedeur Sanders? We talked about him on this show throughout the preseason. He makes the Cleveland Browns team as their third quarterback. Obviously, Joe Flacco, the starter. Dylan Gabriel, from Oregon, is the backup, and Shedeur Sanders on the team. As we all know, he completely dropped and had to wait a long time to get drafted, but he finally did. And I still think the upside on Shedeur Sanders, even though the reports came out last week, we talked about on the show last week, that the NFL kind of was trying to coordinate not getting this kid drafted to prove a point, which I think is stupid. He went all the way to pick 144 in the 5th round. But I think Shedeur Sanders has a lot of talent, and let's see what happens in Cleveland. It's not like Cleveland's going to be any good this year. So hopefully he's gets an opportunity to show what he can be. And then some other things that were surprising to me. Well, I don't know if this is surprising, but the Vikings bring back Adam Thielen, who obviously was with the Panthers, had been so good in Minnesota, and now he's got J.J. McCarthy, the second-year former Michigan Wolverine, who's fully healthy now, was named the starter a few weeks ago. I think that J.J. McCarthy is going to love throwing Adam Thielen. And then how about the Saints naming Spencer Rattler Spencer Rattler, the starter for the Saints. Those were the big news and notes that came out of this last week or so leading into the start of the season. As I said, I couldn't be more excited to have real games that matter, starting with that, obviously, season opening game on Thursday night, Cowboys and Eagles. It's a game that the line has moved out. It's obviously Philly minus 7.5. So I know there was at times that the line might be trending under 7. With Micah Parsons gone, and the Cowboys are going to be, listen, they'll be fired up because every team is fired up week 1. But what a gut punch that is to Cowboys fans and to the Cowboys players. It's like, you're not only losing a brother that you love, but you're losing a guy that gives you such a great chance to get pressure on the quarterback, to have that defense be a factor. And I don't want to say they're not going to be motivated, because they'll be motivated to play in that game. But let's say Philly goes down the field the first 2 or 3 drives. Next thing you know, they're up 21-0. The Cowboys are going to get their asses kicked. So I'm not touching that game as far as betting on it. I'm going to enjoy it. I'll probably do some same game parlay props and stuff like that, which I enjoy doing, especially in bigger games where I might not like the point spread. But that's going to be, I think, an absolute Eagles route. I do love the Chargers. I've talked about this the last couple of weeks as well. I love the Chargers in that Brazil game on Friday night, getting the 3.5, getting the 3.5 against Kansas City, neutral field. Omarion Hampton, we're talking to Greg Kellogg about this because I love this kid for Rookie of the Year. We gave that out around 9 or 10-1 on this show for the last few weeks. Herbert's going to have a big year. Harbaugh in year 2 where he's been. There's been huge improvements, whether it was going back to San Diego in the FCS, Stanford, obviously the Michigan Wolverines, the Niners. I think the Chargers are a legit threat to go to the Super Bowl this year. I love the Chargers in that game, but look at this great slate of games on Sunday. Bucks and Falcons. You've got the Steelers and the Jets with Rodgers coming out. The Giants and Commanders. The Titans and Broncos. Cam Ward's first start. I gave out that play last week. I love the Titans plus 7.5. I think Cam Ward's going to have a good first game on the road. It's better it's on the road than at home. Lions, Packers, the national CBS game at 4:25 on Sunday. That's going to be sick. The Texans and the Rams, the Ravens and the Bills on Sunday Night Football. And Monday Night Football is the Vikings and Bears, an NFC North matchup. Football is finally here. Could not be more excited. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And on the other side, my man Greg Kellogg, that first ballot FSWA Hall of Famer, will join me. Lots to get to with him, and take a look at this first.
This isn't fantasy football. It's real competition. Welcome to the NFL Survivor Tournament. You versus the field. $100 to enter. $100,000 in total prizes. $50K to the winner. Start each week with a $100K bankroll. Pick games, win returns. Top 80% survive. Bottom 20%, you're out. Bankroll resets weekly. No carryover. 20 weeks, $100K. Will you take home the cash? Sign up, lock in, and let's see if you've got the guts to survive.
And there he is, the aforementioned first ballot FSWA Hall of Famer. Has multiple podcasts with the sports affiliation crew on YouTube. It is your friend and mine, the great Greg Kellogg, looking like he's a member of the Buena Vista Social Club that obviously are great at fantasy. Greg, unmute yourself there, my friend. You want to make sure we can hear you. There you go. Muted? Go for it, my friend. Good to see you.
Okay, I'm not muted, right?
Not anymore. You sound clear and you look great.
Great. I got to take exception with one thing you said earlier.
All right.
Omarion Hampton will be
more than one thing.
He will be the 4th best rookie running back this year.
You think he'll be? I mean, obviously Gentry's the favorite. We get that, but don't you?
Yeah, but I don't think Gentry will be the best. I think R.J. Harvey will be the best because of the offense he's on, and he has no competition for carries. And I also love Caleb Johnson in Pittsburgh because they're a better running team. I think Najee Harris is going to play a lot more than a lot of fantasy guys do. Najee Harris is not a bad back, and he's going to get a lot of the goal line touches. Now, in point per reception leagues, Omarion Hampton is going to score. He's going to be a good player. Yeah. But there's a lot of really good young running backs in the league right now.
Hey, Greg, R.J. Harvey 27-1. I'm going to make a play on that because I trust you. You are a legend for a reason. I mean, I love the 9-1 with Hampton, but Harvey, and he's got, as you mentioned, a good situation. I thought his odds were lower than that. He's 27-1 for Rookie of the Year.
Well, go ahead and put him in then. I mean, you get a $5 bet, you come away with 100, right?
Heck yeah, you do. Well, Greg, there's a lot that I want to get into with, but first, I just want to give you a chance because I've never had a first ballot FSWA Hall of Famer on, so this is a treat for me. Show everyone that ring you showed me earlier, and let everyone know why fantasy has been such an important part of your life.
Well, I started playing when I was stationed in the military at what's called the Puzzle Palace, the National Security Agency in Fort Meade, Maryland. Guy came up to me and said, "You want to play fantasy football?" in 1986.
Still in the newspapers back then.
What's that? I had no idea what it was. There was no internet back then.
Right.
I mean, we actually did our scoring out of the USA Today box scores. That's how we figured it out. And then in the 90s, I started writing. And in 2004, I got an Article of the Year from the Fantasy Sports Writers Association. And then in 2010, Matthew Berry from ESPN, Scott Engel from CBS Sportsline, Eric Karabell from CBS Sportsline, and Greg Ambrosius from Magazine World, and me, who had no major media at all. I had a little website called comments.com, but it was kind of based on the Drudge Report simple links page. And all I did was publish anybody that wanted to write an article. You wanted to write, I'd publish. If you got good, I'd recommend you to people because Football Guy is one of the biggest fantasy sites out there right now. And Joe Bryant created Football Guys. He used to be a boat builder. So Joe and I started a fantasy league called FanX. We're real brilliant with our naming conventions. FanX, the Fantasy Experts League.
I like it. It's simple and it's sleek.
It was, and it's still going on today, though I kind of stepped away from the hobby in 2016 and took 5 years off. So I thought nobody would remember me. 5 years is a long time to be away. I came back and I've been embraced by Scott Fish. If you like charity work, Scott is somebody you want to know. The Scott Fish Bowl, 42,000 people have applied to get into it. 4,000 teams were accepted. So, and last year they raised, I think, $360,000 for charity. So not too bad.
By the way, you might have stepped away for 5 years, but like, let's say, Joe Montana retires from football. He's not going to be forgotten. Legends like you are always going to be remembered, Greg. So I appreciate you giving that background because you really are someone that has done incredible stuff in fantasy. There's a reason you're in the Hall of Fame. And I talked about this with our guest Disco, I'm sure you know, from last week. I mean, all you guys have such an amazing community, but you're helping people have so much fun in life, which is what we need these days, Greg. I mean, fantasy, as you mentioned, it's huge. So many millions of people play it, and it's people like you that are helping people enjoy life more. And I take my hat off, first off, to your military service, thank you, and also to what you're doing with that, because I love what I do because I try to do the same thing, and you're doing it in your own way. So mad props to you, my friend. Let's get into some cool stuff here. I mean, I want to ask you about this because you are a fantasy stalwart. Let's talk about maybe an under-the-radar matchup or player that you think fantasy managers are often overlooking but probably shouldn't.
Well, it's hard nowadays to overlook much of anything. There's sleepers always. Like I said, RJ Harvey is going real late, and I love this kid. At wide receiver, it typically takes 2 to 3 years. At quarterback, I love the Michigan kid. I think what Kevin O'Connell has done with nobodies. I mean, Sam Darnold, really? What was he before last year?
He was awful.
Okay. And I think J.J. McCarthy is going to light up the NFL this year. I really do. I think he'll be a top 12 quarterback by the end of it because look at his receiving core. He's got Justin Jefferson, who is my number one. Everybody loves Jamar Chase. Okay. I get you. But in fantasy, the number one receiver from the year before rarely repeats. I mean, it hasn't happened since, I think, Antonio Brown. It's been a long time.
It's very rare.
So I'm picking Justin Jefferson to be the top receiver. Now, I think Chase is going to be good. Don't get me wrong. He'll be a top 5 receiver, barring injury, of course. But I love Jefferson. I think we've already seen in the preseason that McCarthy has a good rapport with Jordan Addison. Now, Addison is missing 3 games, suspension. Those 3 games, I think that's why they went out and got Thielen, is to give him a security blanket while Addison's gone, and Jeremy Naylor has an injured hand. So he may take a little while to come back too. But you got Naylor, you got Thielen, you've got Addison, you got Justin Jefferson. These are some great receivers, okay? Another quarterback I like is Bryce Young. You can get him real late. I think the Parsons trade has just skyrocketed Dak Prescott. He's going to have to throw. He's going to throw between 600 and 650 times because who's their running back? You don't really think it's Javonte Williams, do you?
No, I can't be.
Jaden Blue, maybe, but the kid's only 195 pounds. So running backs that are 195 pounds don't typically carry the ball 300 times.
No, they don't.
You don't see that.
Jaden Blue's a little banged up, too. A lot of other guys, Miles Sanders got banged up.
Yeah, and Miles Sanders is a decent running back, but he's like Damian Pierce in Houston. They're good running backs, but they're nothing special. I love this Woody Marks kid in Houston. I think Woody Marks is going to surprise people. I love Ollie Gordon in Miami, especially Jalen Wright's looked terrible, and Achan's already been banged up a little bit. Now he's supposed to be back for week 1, but do we really expect him to stay healthy all year? I don't. So, I'm looking at Ollie Gordon as a great late round pickup. But there's a ton of – I love the young kids they've got in Carolina as receivers. T-Mac, McMillan is going to be great. Leggett is pretty darn good. And Bryce Young is an up-and-coming quarterback. So, Chuba Hubbard gives decent enough running that play action will work when you have him. And you know as well as I do, scheme is huge. You were telling me off screen that you covered a high school game against a high school that I used to have to play in high school, Corunna High School.
Yep.
And you said they ran a wing T. Well, I got to tell you, most people watching this have no idea what a wing T offense is. They've never seen it.
I know.
I've seen a single wing offense. So I know single wing. I know, the wishbone. Is the wishbone really all that unique? The wishbone was huge. All it is a full house T backbone with the fullback up a step. That's all the wishbone is.
Exactly.
So there's nothing new in football. And Ben Johnson, who I love, former Detroit, I think Caleb Williams may take the seat to Tyler Bagent before the year's over because Bagent looked very good in that offense. And they pulled Williams off the field, the practice field twice, once with the entire offense. Now, a head coach doesn't do that except to send a message.
Right.
And I'm just not sure Caleb Williams is the type of quarterback that can throw on time and make the proper reads. Justin Fields has never been an on-time thrower making the proper reads. He can be a good fantasy quarterback because of his rushing capability, but he's not a great NFL quarterback. Justin Fields is just not a great NFL quarterback. I'm not sure Caleb Williams ever will be.
No, listen, you made a bunch of great points there, but a couple I wanted to talk about. First off, you mentioned Jefferson. I completely agree with you. And obviously, I'm a Wolverine fan, full disclosure, but I think J.J. McCarthy, whether you're a Wolverine fan or not, is going to be really, really good. And I think you made a great point about what O'Connell has been able to do with quarterbacks. And you mentioned Darnold, obviously, who was literally just awful before last year. You look at the AP NFL Offensive Player of the Year odds, obviously Saquon Barkley, the favorite, Jamar Chase, we talked about. Barkley 6-1, Chase is 8-1. Jefferson 12-1. I love the value on Jefferson because you're right. He has a huge year. Not that Chase won't and not that Barkley won't. Jefferson might have ridiculous gaudy numbers that lead him to be that AP Offensive Player of the Year. So we'll see how that rolls out.
Barkley won't. Barkley will not have a great year.
I think he's going to have a really good one, not a great one. I agree with you.
No. I'm telling you, there's a thing that I wrote about back in the 90s called The Curse of 370. You go back and research every running back that's had 370 touches since 2010. There have been 15 of them. Every one of them lost fantasy points. Now, fantasy points aren't NFL points, but it's basically based on yardage and touchdowns primarily and catches. Everyone has lost average. There's been 15 of them. They've lost an average of 46% of their scoring. A lot of them get injured. Okay. But the best was Ezekiel Elliott, and he lost 5%. That was the very best in the last 15 years. So I'm telling people, don't touch Barkley because you have to draft him in the first round. Yep. I just looked at Fantasy Pros ADP, and Barkley is their running back 1. I would go Gibbs over Barkley in a point per reception league every time. I got Bijan as my number 1. I do have Bijan as my number 1. Gibbs is my number 2. But as a fantasy guy, okay, so I love your $100,000 contest. I'm actually in that, and I don't gamble. So I made a deal with the management of Bull Rush. If I win, you mentioned Disco last week, Andrew. If I win, Andrew ran a big draftathon a couple weekends ago where 24 hours drafting and doing pods, and he had it to raise money for hospice care for terminally ill cancer patients. So the fine people at Bull Rush have told me that if I win any money, even the top prize, they will donate it for me. And I'm asking them to do it in the sports affiliation name because I don't even want the tax write-off. I'll let my friends have that. But they're going to donate it to hospice care, which if you don't gamble, you can still play the game and have fun. And that's what I plan on doing. I'm going to tie in a friend of mine that gambles, and I'm going to ask you some questions because I want to ask you right now, this trade of Parsons, who gets more sacks in week 1, Aiden or Micah?
Wow. First off, thank you that's so cool that you're doing that. I'm going to be playing in the contest too. And I got to figure it out. I got to match this. I got to do a charity too. But it's awesome that you're doing that. And that you mentioned that podathon to raise all the money. Like I said, you guys do so many great things, such a great community. To me, that week 1 more sacks is Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, I know that
Micah Parsons, that's what I bet.
I know Micah Parsons will be fired up, but Hutchinson is going. Out of training camp this year, and obviously I've covered the Lions for years too. So this is not like I'm just being a homer. I gotta be fair because I still cover him. He is not only 100% back, Greg, but the way he looked this preseason and during camp, from what I've been able to see, I'm not trying to say he didn't look good before. He looks as good as he's ever looked and better than when he was at Michigan, then when he's obviously in the Lions last year, before he got hurt, could have been Defensive Player of the Year. It's almost like, obviously you never want to get hurt, as we both know, but sometimes an injury can just spark something to help you be even better than you were before the injury. And to me, that's kind of where we'll see how it plays out in regular games. But at least just looking at what Hutchinson is, bringing to the table right now, he looks better than he was before. And he already was an NFL Defensive Player of the Year candidate. So I think it's Hutchinson. I really do.
I do too. And a couple of reasons. Parsons has been holding in, so he hasn't really been doing the full workouts. Right. So it's going to take him a little while to get game ready. And what I've heard from camp, and I've been trying to watch what I can from down here in Texas, is that Hutchinson is actually getting quarterback. You can't sack the quarterbacks in preseason, but you touch them, you protect him. But he's been getting to the quarterback on about 1 out of every 4 rushes, and that's pretty strong.
25% is ridiculous. I think 15% would be ridiculous.
Oh yeah. So now I talked to Alfredo Brown from Football Guys, who's a very smart fantasy guy, and he said Parsons, and I think he's nuts. I think it's going to be Aiden.
It's going to be. I think Hutch. I would be surprised if he had 2.5. I really wouldn't. You said you got some more questions. We fire him away, Greg. I mean, you're my guest, but I want to be your guest now.
Well, I love Michigan, and it's hard. It's easier to get Lions news down here than Michigan news. Okay?
Well, don't worry. I'm your Michigan guy going forward.
Okay, so I asked you a little bit earlier, but I think my viewers would like to know, what did the running? I mean, I love Bryce Underwood. He is a freshman. I almost said rookie, but he is a freshman, a true freshman. But the kid is really highly thought of, and you've been watching him in practice, so you know whether it's true or not. Is this a kid that as a freshman is going to be able to compete at a high level in the Big Ten?
Hey, Greg, it's a great question, and obviously I've been able to see him getting ready for this season, but I've also called games with. I'll tell a quick story because I think your listeners and viewers will appreciate this. So I call it a high school game of the week. We have all the biggest games of Michigan's obviously got a lot of great high school football, so I'm very lucky and blessed to do it because it's one of my favorite things I've ever done in my career. I've called different levels of football and basketball and stuff in the past, and the high school game is so pure. I love it. So 3 seasons ago, when Bryce Underwood was a sophomore, one of the teams that we cover is Brighton. It's about 35 minutes outside of Detroit. They were playing in the KLAA title game against Belleville. And Belleville's basically a team that had not lost in a couple years. Bryce started as the starter as a freshman. They were beating teams 62-6, 55-0. They were just blowing everybody out. I had yet to see him in person. So I go down to the field, like I do before any game, and I talk to the coaches, look at some of the players, say hi, whatever, watch the quarterbacks throw, the kickers kick, whatever. I looked at Underwood. He's a sophomore. Remember, he's 16 years old. He looked like Patrick Mahomes. He was throwing balls as well as anybody I've ever seen, not just at the high school level, maybe even the college level. And the guy was a monster. That was a sophomore. Last year, they got back to the KLA title game again. They only lost 2 times in his entire 4 years. 2 times. 2 state titles, and they lost, 3 state titles and lost 2 times. So they played another team we cover, Howe, and I mentioned the Wing T. They run the Wing T as well. They were really good, but like I mentioned, Belleville beats teams by 30, 40, 50 points. Bryce didn't even throw much that game, but every time they had the ball, they scored because he either would get like a 3rd and 15 with his legs, he would complete a pass. The guy is incredible, and he's been playing at such a high level for such a long time, Greg, and he is such a good kid. I know he came out and talked to the Big Ten Network and said he's going to do things that freshmen have never done before. He is not an arrogant kid. He's not Johnny Manziel. He's not this kind of a guy. He's a team guy, not a me guy. He might talk big, and there's nothing wrong with that. Why not be a brash kid and be confident? But the reason I believe he's going to be good as a freshman is this is a guy that is super confident. He's got great coaching at Michigan. They've got weapons. I know they lost Colston Loveland, the great tight end, but they've got weapons on offense. The offensive line, small question mark, Greg, but I talked to my good friend Angelique Shingalis, who's been the Michigan beat writer for over 30 years. There's a chance there's a lot of talent on that line. It might take a couple games, which luckily Michigan has New Mexico to start to get them, in better position. I think Bryce, if he starts off with confidence and doesn't have like a 4 interception game or, really kind of the speed gets to him of how different high school and colleges, I think he could take over this year. I think he could be that good. I'm not saying he's going to win a Heisman or anything, but he is such a specimen. There is a reason he was the number 1 prospect overall any position in the country last year. There's a reason. And this guy is a 4-year starter at quarterback at a very good program that plays very tough teams, and they were beating them by 40, 50 points. So I think that Bryce Underwood's going to be incredible this year as a freshman, and next year, a great chance to win the Heisman, a national championship again for the Wolverines. I think he's that good.
Well, what about, and I know we mentioned Savion Walker and the recruiting that Michigan's doing for 26 and beyond, but what do they have in their running back and wide receiver core and tight end? Because as you mentioned, Colston Loveland's now in Chicago.
Yep.
What do you see out of those guys for Michigan this year? And remember, yes, they should win that first game easily, but the second game is against Oklahoma, and that's a pretty even number 18 versus number 14. That's a pretty even game.
Yeah, Michigan wants to be a playoff team. They have to win that game against Oklahoma. Listen, the problem with the running back position is that you just don't know who the standout is going to be if there is one, and you hope there is. Justice Haynes is going to be the main guy, the junior transfer. He's looked good in camp. You got a redshirt freshman in Jordan Marshall, who I know the coaching staff is very high on. You've got this Cuzzle kid who's a redshirt sophomore, CJ Hester, a junior transfer. I think it's going to be more of a running back by committee. But you got a lot of talent there. You mentioned, and we both talked about Colston Loveland, who's one of my all-time. I've been a Wolverine fan since I was in the womb. I came out of the womb in '77 singing "Hail to the Victors." Colston Loveland's one of my all-time favorite Wolverines. And obviously, I think he's going to be an incredible pro. I'm mad that he's in the Lions division, the Bears. But Marlon Klein, who's a redshirt junior, he is kind of going to take the place of what Loveland was Hogan Hanson's a sophomore who's looked good in camp as well. And Zach Marshall is a redshirt sophomore that the coaching staff has been high on as well. There is still a tremendous amount of talent at tight end, but there's not a ton of experience. So we just said, you open against New Mexico, you're like almost 40-point favorite. It should be a kind of like a preseason game. That Oklahoma game is where guys, like I mentioned, whether it's the tight ends in Klein, the running backs in Haynes and Marshall, that's where you got to have production. Because if you don't come to that Oklahoma game, and I think Michigan is going to be a better team this year overall than the Sooners are, but Oklahoma's good. And if you don't come into that game and have an offense that was not like Michigan's was last year, which was pretty poor, except that Ohio State game, it was enough, obviously, 4 years in a row for those silly Buckeyes. But I just think that this Wolverine offense is going to be a work in progress for a few weeks, with Underwood being that true start, freshman starter. By the Oklahoma game, they might look a lot different than they did in week one, which is what you want if you're the Wolverines. But that's where they got to really make that move, Greg. As you know, the biggest improvement in football, especially in college football, is from week one to week two. It's the most important time to see what you are, no matter who you're playing. If it's a bad team or a tough team in week one, or a bad team or, an easy one in week two. That improvement from week one to week two is huge. I think you're going to see a ton of that with some of these skill guys that weren't big factors last year for the Wolverines, but have a tremendous amount of talent.
What about their defense?
Defense is going to be really, really good. That's the one thing I mentioned. I talked with my good friend Angelique Shagala. She is the beat writer for the Wolverines for the Detroit News. I had her on my show this week, and she's one of my favorite people as well. The defense up that line with Rayshawn Benny at defensive end, with Pierce at Trey Pierce at defensive tackle. They got a kid named Trey Williams, a grad transfer at nose tackle. Derek Moore, obviously, Michigan fans are familiar with. The college football fans are the senior linebacker. TJ Guy. They've got a tremendous amount of talent on the front seven and the linebacker core. The back end, obviously, you lose a guy like Will Johnson, who I loved. He was an incredible, secondary member for the Wolverines. But you've got Zeke Berry, you've got TJ Metcalf, you've got Mason Curtis, who's a sophomore but is going to probably start at free safety. They've got a lot of talent on the back end of that defense and in that front seven. I think that if Michigan's offense, Greg, can be obviously what I think it could be based on what it wasn't last year, which was awful, and the defense is as good as it looks like it's going to be, and obviously it's all on paper right now. There's no preseason games for college football teams. The Wolverines, that's why I think they have a chance to be a playoff team. I think you get to 10 wins. I'm not going to pick them to lose to Ohio State until the Buckeyes beat them for the first time. And it's been 4 years now. Maybe it'll be 5 years this year. So to me, this is a team that is going to have to win games like Oklahoma. They probably lose to Penn State, and probably might have to win a game against a team like Ohio State in the end to make the playoff. But I think they're good enough to be a 10-win team, and you're going to find out a lot. Michigan last year, Greg, and I love it because I've been going to games since I was a kid. We had season tickets to my family for 7 years. We had 5 straight home games. I'm up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. for 4 straight weeks, and one of those was a night game. This year, it's one home, one road, one home, one road. So it's much different. They're playing Nebraska early on the road in the first month or so of the season. So I think that's going to really help this team build an identity, because you open up at home, Greg, as you know, 5 straight games, you're comfortable. You're not on the road. It's not us against the world. I think that's going to be good for a team that's younger, true freshman quarterback that needs to kind of build some character to be a team that hopefully can make a run to the playoffs this year.
And you got 110 screaming fans in your favor in that little home stadium too.
I
think it at 107, but they cram more in.
Well, they count. I'll give away the secret. Greg, it's one of the great things about being a Wolverine fan, because we don't care that they do this. They count everybody. They count the media, the band, the referees, the concession workers. So that's why we always have the biggest crowd in the country.
And I love it too. But okay, so we've covered Michigan. Back in the NFL draft, when Detroit traded up, and everybody thinks that Detroit made a mistake trading up to get Isaac Tesla. And I think
definitely not.
Brad Holmes doesn't make mistakes.
He doesn't.
Okay. If you look at his drafts from the minute he got to Detroit all the way through, how many of those guys are still on the roster, or at least 92%. Still in the NFL?
I don't have the number in front of me, but I know last year it was 92%. He doesn't make mistakes. And people will say, oh, they should have traded up for Gibbs. They should have done this. Until Brad, and I'm not going to say until, because I don't think he's going to, But until a guy like Brad Holmes, with what he's done reshaping a team that had Matt Millen as a GM who was incredibly stupid, Martin Mayhew was a Millen disciple.
No. Let's be nice. Matt Millen wasn't stupid. He's just not Brad Holmes.
No,
Holmes
he wasn't a stupid
genius.
person. He was a stupid GM. He's a very smart guy.
Right, that's better. That's better.
I love that. I know Matt Millen. I stupid GM, not a stupid person. Obviously, if you play football that long, you got to be smart. But my point is that until he proves that he can make mistakes, why would you believe he's making them? Because, yes, he's not going to be perfect. No one is. Bill Belichick wasn't perfect when he was building those Patriots team with their brilliant draft picks year after year.
He made a brilliant 6th-round pick. Belichick did.
Sure did. That guy, I think his name is Snady. But
I don't know, but if you can see the helmet behind me, it's got some guy named Tom signed it on top. Yeah,
I thought you were going to say that Brady, he would have turned Hendon Hooker into the Hall of Famer.
Well,
but that's a conversation for another day.
You're talking about my Hooker jersey, I know, but
so to me, Greg, it's one of these things where Holmes has hit on so many picks, and Tesla, who you mentioned, has been I just did a recap on this for another show I do, like the 3 main stars of the preseason for the Lions. Tesla was probably number 1. I mean, he was incredible, and that's why the Lions
Tate Rutledge had a good camp.
Yep. Rutledge had a great camp as well. I mean, you obviously know everything I know because you're a lifelong Lions fan like me. But to me, Greg, I think that Brad Holmes has been so good at identifying what the Lions need, where they should take these players, and why you risk or give up draft capital to move up to get someone like a Gibbs, to get someone like a Tesla, to move down to get someone else that maybe other teams were going to take higher, and you got lucky they fell to the spot and you were going to overdraft. I think he's an absolute genius. I call him Brad Sherlock Holmes. He always figures out the riddle of the football crimes. And as long as the Lions, listen, losing Ben Johnson, it sucks. But he deserved every right to become a head coach. Can't get mad about that.
So did Aaron Glenn.
Yep,
so did
100%.
Aaron Glenn. 8 coaches, not just 2, 8 coaches.
Right. And I love Kelvin Shepard, by the way, the guy taking over for defensive coordinator. But as long as the Lions have Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, they are going to be a Super Bowl contender. And we have not been able to say that in Detroit, as you know, Greg, since the Wayne Fontes days. And even back then, it was like 1 good year, 2 bad ones, losing games in comical ways. This is the best, most viable period of long-term contention the Lions have been in and set themselves up for in my entire life. And you're way younger than me, Greg, so you remember back in the other days. But it's been incredible to see the Lions rise.
Well, I want to ask you something because I made what I consider a bold prediction for fantasy. When Tesla was drafted, I looked at some of his tape, and I said, this is a kid that could catch 40 passes his rookie year and turn those into 10 touchdowns. Now, 10 touchdowns on 40 receptions is extremely rare. 10 touchdowns for a rookie is rare. Am I off base, or do you see him getting 10 touchdowns this year?
I do not. I love your moxie and your thought process. That sounds like I thought you were going to talk about Sam Laporta because he might get 10 touchdowns. But Tesla's going to get a bunch. And I think the fact that you've got an O-line that, yes, you lose a guy you hate to lose in Frank Ragnow. I know Decker's been a little banged up, but you still have a pretty solid line. You've got a quarterback in Goff that doesn't make a lot of mistakes. You've got Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Isaac Tesla. You have got – and
Khalif Raymond.
Right, and you've got Gibbs as well, who can be a receiver in his own right. You've got this incredibly balanced offense that I will see what happens with John Morton. I like his his credentials and the way that he's looked out. This team has looked at camp so far. But when you've got that thunder, lightning, and running back with Gibbs and Montgomery and all those players I just mentioned, including obviously Sam Laporta, who I absolutely love, and you mentioned obviously Rowledge on the line, I got to tell you, this offense, it's not going to be – you can't want it to be what Ben Johnson's was because he's not there anymore, but it doesn't mean it can't be as good in a different way because Ben Johnson, his concepts were genius. But it doesn't mean that Morton can't get schemes together that the Lions will score in the 40s again because they've got one of the better overall balanced offenses in the NFL, Greg, as you well know.
They got the 2 best tackles in the NFL.
Yes,
their left and right tackle combination is the best in the NFL. There's nobody better than
Janae. I love that. I just love. I will say,
and Taylor Decker's not. He's not a bum.
No, reason he was the first pick.
Yeah, and you put Brock Wright in there. People overlook Brock Wright. He is a great blocking tight end. He's a great inline tight end who can catch. It's just that Laporte is so dynamic as a receiver. So I don't know. I think this offense is going to be every bit as good as it was under Ben Johnson.
I'm with you.
I think Ben Johnson is going to struggle because he doesn't have Jared Goff, who made that offense go.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, Caleb Williams is great, but the Bears have not been as great as the Lions have been, and the confidence level we'll see. Greg, listen, I could talk to you for hours, but I'm almost out of time here. I do have a couple more questions for you. If you have one more for me, go for it.
Go out. Just who do you see as the top receiver for the Lions? Amon-Ra, who everybody loves in fantasy circles, or do you think Jameson Williams could actually outscore him? Now, thinking yards plus receptions plus touchdowns.
Yep. I'm going to go off of something, because you being the genius that you are, said that I think that everyone needs to hear about what happens with receivers and running backs the next year, especially top-level guys. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. He won me a lot of money taking his props in betting last year. But Jameson Williams, who became more of a factor last season on purpose, is even bigger of a factor this year under John Morton's stewardship. Amon-Ra St. Brown is still going to be really good, but it's Jameson Williams, Greg. And Jameson Williams can stretch the field. Not that Amon-Ra St. Brown can't, but Jameson Williams, I'm forgetting how many over 50-yard receptions he had the most on the Lions. He can score a 70-yard touchdown. He can do a post route, if the Lions are at their own 20, and score an 80-yard bomb. That is what his role is going to be, aside from obviously being a good possession guy. I think Jameson Williams is going to have a ridiculous year, and he will have the most at the end of the season. Not that Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be a bum or anything, but I think that Jameson Williams is going to be electric this year, and he was last year at times too. But I think at the end of the year, Greg, you're going to look back, and you're going to, if you're a Lions fan or an NFL fan or a fantasy fan, and you have him on your fantasy team, and say, wow, this kid is going to be a top 5 receiver for the next several years.
I got one more question for you. It's a quick
All right, one more. I got one for you that I got to get you out of.
A kid that played linebacker. A kid that played linebacker at Michigan got converted to a running back, Khalil Mullins. Yes. He's now in Tennessee. Could he take that starting job away from Pollard?
Starting job, no, but Mullins was unbelievable in a terrible offense last year for the Wolverines, as you well know. And I just love that kid's moxie. I love his passion for the game. He's in a good situation with a young Tennessee team that's got nothing to lose with a rookie overall number 1 quarterback, Cam Ward. And I like Pollard, Greg. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's going to supplant him, but he is going to be a bigger factor than people realize. And I don't know where his ADP is right now. I'm not.
It's off the charts. You can get him at the end.
I would take him in a late pick in a heartbeat, because he might get a few touchdowns in the first couple of weeks, based on where they are. All right, Greg, before I let you go, I got a couple questions. And listen, we're going to have you on several times in the future. It's been an honor talking to you. My first ever, FSWA Hall of Famer, but you obviously are just a great guy, and you do great stuff as well, as I mentioned, to help people enjoy life and charity work and all that stuff. So thank you for all you do. And thank you for, as I mentioned, your military service. But if you could, and I know you've alluded to some of these guys, give me a rookie or two that you believe, maybe there's some people out there like I haven't drafted yet for my family league, that you think are going to make the biggest impact in fantasy, that someone maybe should make sure they draft, or obviously look at their props if they're going to be betting them come the regular season later this week.
Well, the problem is guys like Ollie Gordon and RJ Harvey are climbing the draft boards way too quick.
Sure.
I think that somebody like Mullins could surprise. So that's somebody you can get. Typically, I don't go for the rookies, because I think it takes a year or two I won't touch Colston Loveland. I think he'll be great once they get a quarterback. I don't know that Caleb Williams is that guy. I just don't. So I like Bill in Washington. Now, if you don't know who Bill is, his real name is Ja'Cory Crossett Martin, JCM, but he likes to be called Bill. This is a kid that could end up starting for a Commander's offense that's pretty good. So that's somebody I would look at.
I love it. And I like how it's easier to call him JCM. I mean, not that I don't mind calling him Ja'Cory Crossett Merritt, but I love that. Listen, Greg, I got to tell you this. I love being able to talk to people like you because not only can I tell, I know we just met recently, you're a heck of a guy, but you really care about this stuff. You're passionate. And as I mentioned, I can't stress enough how cool it is that you help people really enjoy things that they love in life, like fantasy football and the NFL. So we definitely want to get you back on again. Anything you ever need from me, I'm here for you, but keep up the amazing work. And obviously there's a reason you're in the Hall of Fame. And I want to celebrate that in person with some pops or Sprites or beers, whatever you want. I'm 14 years sober.
Come to the expo. I don't drink, so
you know what?
I will together.
I will definitely come. I wasn't able to do it this year, but I will definitely come to the expo. But I can't thank you enough for joining me today. Can't wait to do it again into an incredible 2025 year and maybe that first ever Super Bowl appearance for our Detroit Lions.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. You have a wonderful life, and I love your show.
I appreciate it. Listen, it was an honor having you on. There he is, Greg Kellogg. Follow Gregory L. Kellogg on Twitter. I could have had him on literally for 2 hours, but we got an hour show here, so I got a couple things to do before we get out of here. Great stuff by him. We'll definitely have Greg back on. It's like I said, I'm so lucky to do what I do, whether it's this show, calling the high school football games, doing other various shows that I do, because I love life and I love helping people enjoy life as well, like Greg does with his fantasy stuff. And that's why I'm so excited about this show. He's in the wings right now. My producer, the great Davonshire, he is such an incredible human being as well. So excited that he's part of this show. My man Trent Air from the CEO of Bull Rush, Neil, all the great people there that we partner with here for this Monday Night Ed show. I'm in a very gracious mood. I always try to be. I think that something I learned a long time ago is, live your life in gratitude, and that'll help you live your best life. Because this is such the amazing time of year. Football is my favorite sport. Betting on football is my favorite thing to do. Well, horse racing too, and tennis, and golf. But no, football is the best, and I'm just could not be more excited about this show, about connecting with this new audience. Obviously, I've done a lot of stuff on both a local Michigan level and a national level throughout the last 25 plus years of my career. But I know this is going to be some new people that get to know who I am and I get to know, and I couldn't be happier. So sorry, this week we couldn't really take any streaming comments because obviously I'm in New York right now. But going forward, we will always make sure you're completely connected to us. I want the show to be as interactive as possible, to have amazing guests like Greg Kellogg. Could be happier to have him. And shout out to Davonshire, my great producer as well. He's the one that is booking these guests. So I'm going to have some of people that I'm familiar with, that I've worked with in the past, and people that I love as well later on this season. But it's all Davin. So props to the guy. He's the reason I look so good, because Greg said I have a face for TV. Ever since I have a face for radio, I'm very good looking. I know that. But he's making me look good. He's making sure that we got the chat thing going, all the little banners and everything. So big props to him. He's a huge part of this show as well. All right, before we get out of here, I wanted to have some fun with this because some of you might be watching for the first time. I wanted to go over all the plays I've given out, because we're going to do this every week. I'm going to give you, futures plays every week. I'm going to give you point spread plays, things that I like throughout the season. But over these last 4 weeks during the preseason, obviously the games weren't as important as talking about what was going to happen in the season. I want to let everyone know what I've given out so far. And then I've got some bets that I made, and I'm going to have my man David throw them on the screen in just a minute here, that I put together in parlays, some separate plays as well. But you got to understand that when you're taking some shots on like teams to make the playoffs or awards, sometimes it's nice to parlay them and not have to spend a lot of money. I probably maybe bet a little more than I should have on some of these because I had max bets I could use with profit boosts, but I'll show you those in a minute. But just once again, if you're just joining the show, this is what I've given out so far this season. So as far as Super Bowl futures go, I've given out Washington, the Commanders at 20-1. When I gave them out, they're kind of fluctuating a little lower than that. Chargers were 26-1 when I gave them out on 20. So I always tell people, not that I'm right about everything, but bet the things that when I give them out, because the lines will move a lot. So I've had my own website, DTMSquatchfix.club, for a long time, so you can check that out as well. Win totals: Chargers over 9.5, Bucks over 9.5. Those were actually the first few things I gave out. Also, I gave out exact Super Bowl matchup for the Bills in Washington, 41-1. Baltimore and Detroit, 28-1. Bears under 7.5, which is against many of the experts. Denver under 8.5. Some books have 9.5. It's crazy, which is against many experts. I gave away Squatch Futures Awards in week 2. or my second show that I did it. Jaden Daniels 10-1 for MVP. Saquon Barkley 60-1 for MVP, just because of the value there. Offensive Rookie of the Year, as I told with Greg, Amari Hampton, love him. He's about 8.5, 9-1. Perfect situation in LA. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Travis Hunter, gave it out at 13-1. And I think it's down to 10-1. And then also last week I gave out. Sorry, I'm just getting to my thing here. Last week I gave out a couple more when it came to props, and I want to show what hold on, I'm sorry, I just lost my place there. Oh yeah, I gave a couple Coach of the Year props out with Kyle Shanahan, and I think he was 10-1. Why am I losing this? I have had one issue with losing my place and things that I have up, and now I have one now. Oh, here we go. Okay, sorry, got it. All right. Coach of the Year, Kyle Shanahan, 20-1. Jim Harbaugh, 20-1. And I also gave out some additional MVP picks a couple weeks ago. Jordan Love, obviously he's looking even better now, 20-1. Jamar Chase, 120-1. Total long shot, but I think Jamar Chase, I know Greg likes Jefferson. I like Jefferson too. And I'm definitely going to take Jefferson 12-1 for AP Offensive Player of the Year, which is different than MVP. A lot easier for a guy like Jefferson to win. And I also am going to add the play that I mentioned to Greg earlier, RJ for Rookie of the Year at 27-1 Offensive Rookie of the Year. But I also really, really like the Pats under 7.5 wins and Green Bay over 8.5 wins. I think their win total actually might have just bumped up to 9. But whatever Green Bay's win total is, as long as you get it below 9 or 8.5, and you obviously got to take the way that it works out. You don't have to take what the actual win total is on the legal apps. You can take over 8.5, 9.5, whatever. There might be more juice. Anything over 9 or under, I like it. As far as take the 9 to go over, take the 8.5 to go over. I don't care what the juice is; it's worth it. And the Pats obviously are 7.5. Take the under, even though people think they're going to be a lot better. But now I wanted to have some fun with this, if we may, Sir Davin. I got some parlays that I made. We're going to start with this. We're going to hold on. What is going on with me today? It's been a long week, but the dream is alive. I want to have some fun with this because you can make a lot of money on these, and you don't have to bet a lot. So I've got a props parlay, a season award props parlay. So the first one I did was Jamar Chase to have 10 or more regular season touchdowns, with Sam Laporta, the Lions tight end, to have 6 or more receiving touchdowns. I think that's gonna, both those will get it easily. We obviously heard me, and then don't think that it's because I'm a Lions fan. Lions are going to have a great offense as they have the last couple of years. Jameson Williams over 750 regular season receiving yards. He was over 1,000 last year. It should be easy for him. He's not going to be number one. It will be Monroe St. Brown, but he might get almost as many targets. Joe Burrow to throw 30 regular season or more touchdowns. I think he could be 35 or more. Gibbs 1,000 yards rushing or more. The way he's been playing in certain games, he might get 160. He should go all over. And then Brock Bowers, 1,000 regular season receiving yards. I boosted this, so it's a little, I want to be fair. You're not going to be able to necessarily boost this, but it's 12.5-1. So you bet $100 on that, you're going to win over $1,250. I love the value on that. So obviously on the screen, you see I boosted it, but the regular odds were 12.5-1. So I love that. You can throw this up, Davin. Obviously Omari Hampton, I already talked about him, 9-1. I boosted that too. So if you guys have boosts, use your boosts. But I showed you the Bills and the Commanders. You can see that right below. That's an exact Super Bowl matchup. So if the Bills and the Commanders play each other in the Super Bowl, you win the bet. That's 40-1. I'm seeing some 41-1s out there as well. And then this one I love. This is my to make the playoffs parlay. And I think it's tremendous value. Lions to make the playoffs. They might not win the division for the third straight year, which I don't think they've ever done before, by the way. They've never won it 3 straight years. But they should make the playoffs because the Packers might win the division. Bucks to make the playoffs. Bucks might be an 11, 12-win team this year. Mayfield, I know a lot of people like for MVP. That's not going to happen. Packers to make the playoffs. I got this before the Parsons trade, but they were already going to make the playoffs. And the Commanders, who have in the Super Bowl, to make the playoffs. That's another 10-1. So you bet 100 or, win 1,000, you bet 50, you win 500. I love that a ton. And then the Bills are my main Super Bowl pick. I got them at 7-1. It's actually 7.5-1 right now. I did put a small bet on Matthew Stafford if you want to show that one. Down, I think he's going to have a big year if he stays healthy. to win the regular season MVP, $25. One wins $1,000 at 40 to 1. And then, Devin, you might as well show this. I know it's mainly an NFL show, but I like this. We just had, some Michigan talk. How about this? Michigan to make the playoff, the CFP, Clemson to win the ACC championship game, and Utah to win the Big 12 championship game. You got 4 teams in the Big 12, all basically 5 or 6 to 1, so it's definitely possible. 44 to 1 before my profit boost. So $50 wins over 2,000. So that's another one that, I'm giving these out because I want you guys to all make some money out there, guys and girls. And I mentioned I've had a website for a long time. I've been giving out picks for a long time. My DTMSquatchpicks.club website just had 9 pre-tournament golf outright winners in 12 weeks. And I've had a great record in the NFL and college for years. So I'm going to give out plays like this on this show every week. Obviously, some of the guests I have on will give out plays. We're all here to help you cash, win some money, win some fantasy cash, win the survivor pool. I'm going to be playing along with you. It's going to be great. And don't forget, go to bullrush.com, sign up for that survivor pool. You enter the code EDGE. You get $50 cash back and also $5 sign-up bonus. So you're basically spending $45 to get $100 worth of action. And as I mentioned, the survivor pool is going to be so much fun. 20 weeks long. You get $100,000 in virtual cash every week. All you got to do is a minimum of 2 different bet slips, but you can parlay different props. You can take, single point spread bets, single total bets, parlays with totals, and whatever is bettable, you're going to be able to use to make, mythical wagers on to try to survive in advance. And all you got to do is be in the top 80% each week. You make it to week 11, you start winning cash prizes, $500 for first. It's 500 for first once you get to week 11. And hold on, where's my thing? Yeah, this is like the first week where I've had trouble finding my notes. I apologize, but we're having fun here. 500 for first, 350 for second, and 150 for third. So that's when you get to weeks 11 through 19, and is it 10 through 19? I thought it was 11 through 19. But then you start winning cash prizes. But if you win any week, you're automatically qualified for week 20, which is $200 for everybody. But then first place, $50K. Second place, $20K. Third place, $10K. Fourth place, $5,000. So, I mean, who doesn't want what great value, especially for basically getting it for $45, and you could be in the mix for $50,000 and some other great prizes. So go to bullrush.com, check that out, use the code EDGE, and you will get $50 cash back as well as $5 bonus as well. So you're basically spending $45 for $100 value, and that is pretty freaking awesome. All right, that's going to do it for me today. Thanks so much to my great producer, the great Devonshire. Big thanks to my man, Greg Kellogg, a fantasy legend. Please check out all of his stuff. It was awesome having him on. Most importantly, all of you, I'll have a big report on my adventure to New York to see Oasis in the U.S. Open, and I'm sure a lot of other crazy things will happen. But most importantly, season's greetings. The NFL is finally here. Real games, what are we, like 82 hours away or so from a game that actually counts? And then it's nonstop until February. How does that feel to everybody? Till next time, I'm Dan Leach saying thanks so much for watching. Keep your feet on the ground. Keep reaching for the stars. Believe in the dream. This has been the Monday Night Edge with Dan Leach, powered by Bull Rush. Till next time, see you then.
You want a shot at $50,000 in cold, hard cash? Well, Bull Rush just dropped a new sports comp, the NFL Survivor. And the total prize pool, a massive $100,000. First place gets $50,000 straight up. Think you got the picks to survive 20 weeks? Here's how it works. Start each week with a $100K fantasy bankroll. Make picks using real NFL odds. Place in the top 80% and you survive. Below that, you're out. Your bankroll resets each week, so a bad week doesn't kill your season. Make it to week 20, and you and all the other survivors split the entire $100,000. You want the bag? Prove it. Join NFL Survivor only on Bull Rush.
Devonshire!